All right, guys. So in this session, we are going to discuss the sanctions which was imposed on certain entities by US, certain Indian entities. Okay. So recently, United States have imposed sanctions on 19 Indian entities, which include various companies and individuals. So this move have actually got significant attention and raising questions about the implications and India's response. And the sanctions are basically because of, the accusation that some Indian companies might have exported goods with dual use potential to Russia, that the items, that could be used for civilian and military purpose both. So that's actually the reason and the context. So let's get into the details of it. If you look at the scope of the sanctions, the US has been aggressively placing sanctions on numerous entities across the world, right? So in fact, it imposes around 500 to 600 sanctions each month on different companies globally. And this recent sanction, is targeted around 400 companies across the world, out of which 19 from India. So along with India, there are several UAE companies and then Chinese entities and also certain European firms also. So if you look at this, the primary trigger for these sanctions is a suspicion of aiding or supporting the Russian government or Vladimir Putin. Okay, so let's discuss more of it, and we will also see the Japan's involvement. It's very much notable that Japan, who's a very important ally or key ally of US, have also followed the same suit by imposing sanction on Indian companies for the first time. And this action is also resulted from or because of the belief that the company was involved in exports to Russia that Japan think or consider as unacceptable. And this development highlights the growing seriousness with which the countries allied with US view any potential assistance to Russia. So if we go further, resilience of Indian companies, something which we need to discuss. And interestingly, most Indian companies are responding to these sanctions with very good confidence. And they are openly stating that US sanctions have minimal impact on their operations. And their main argument is that they do not rely on US business and they do not rely on export to US or financial transaction between or with US. Okay, so payment for exports to Russia are primarily made in Indian rupees, bypassing the need for US dollars and euros also. Now, coming to few of the examples. Uh, See, guys, an example of a sanctioned Indian company in, which reportedly shipped approximately 700 consignment to Russia, including US origin aircraft components. So while these components are intended for civilian use, the US is afraid, or US fear is that, their potential military application due to their dual use nature. And this reflects the US government's cautious approach in preventing even the slightest possibility of its military use. So you can read this completely in detail. The company name is there, and it shipped around 700 consignment to Russia. Okay, and including US origin aircraft components, and the potential impact is loss of US market access and scrutiny in international trade. You can get into the details also. So let me quickly cover this topic. So minimal impact on defense exports. See, the overarching sentiments among Indian companies is one of resilience, with many dismissing the sanctions as non-consequential or inconsequential, and how, but there are exceptions. For instance, RRG Engineering, which works with DRDO and supplies limited equipment to the Indian military, may face challenges if it seeks to export to Europe or the US in the future due to these sanctions. So there can be some impact, but otherwise it is considered as minimum consequences only. So potential policy shift. Okay. So there is a speculation that if Donald Trump returned to power to the US, in the US as the next US president, many of these sanctions could be revoked. And Trump's approach often critiques extensive sanctions, citing that they alienate the allies and trading partners unnecessarily, which is not required, which is not justified also for Trump. And his policy may lead to a significant shift in the global sanctions landscape, and that can potentially ease the pressure on Indian companies also. So now, if you look at this, it's not only the Indian companies, many other countries, companies are also facing the sanction because of, this potential dual use things which you are exporting to Russia. Now, what we can say in conclusion is, while the US sanctions have created some disruptions for some of the companies, most of the companies are very confident. They are not completely relying on US sanctions or US exports or that trade. So they have not deterred most Indian companies. If you see, some of the companies might have got affected, and the situation could change dramatically if there is a shift in US leadership or policy. And it is essential to stay informed as the complex issue unfolds, as it may have broader implications for global trade and India's strategic position. So that's all about this video, guys. And I just wanted to update about the sanctions. And I also want to tell that it is not going to make too much impact on the Indian companies, except some of the companies. So see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much.